Recent polling data suggests that between 50 and 70% of Americans support a federal jobs program. And with a record-breaking 40 million unemployed, it seems right now is the time to make that policy a reality. Similar to what FDR did in 1939 to fight the Great Depression. But beyond the jobs and wages, which is of course the A1 priority, here are 10 other ways a federal guaranteed jobs program would benefit all of us right now. Number 1, reduced crime. Statistics say the unemployment rate is connected to the crime rate. A study even found that making even just a little more legitimate money can lure people away from making money through illicit activity. Research from the University of Chicago backs this up, stating that unemployment is positively connected to property crime. That is, more unemployment, more property crime. It's also true with youth. A Brookings Institute study found that just keeping them busy in a youth summer program led to a 35% reduction in violent crimes and a 57% reduction in property crimes in the year and a half or so following the summer jobs program. So clearly, more jobs, more things to do equals less crime. That leads to reason number 2. Saving money on policing and jails and all that bullshit. In Indiana, where I live, we spend $18,000 a year per inmate. In states like California or New Jersey or other expensive states on the coast, they spend as much as $65,000 a year per inmate. Combine that with the fact that the prisoners themselves aren't really contributing back to the economy, and that's why it makes sense to pay people to work rather than having people eventually commit crimes because they're out of work. Number 3, the US clearly needs more emergency supplies ready and on hand just in case. Coronavirus is just the tip of the iceberg, if you ask me. There's all sorts of crises that are probably on the way because of climate change or other pandemics or an asteroid or who knows what that's gonna really mess things up here. Did you know that since coronavirus started, the United States had almost completely ran out of their emergency reserve medical supplies by the end of March? But regular people like me and you never got those. No. Those were for important people like basketball teams and the government and hospitals, of course, if they were lucky enough to get them. A federal jobs program could put people to work right now, building up the reserve supplies we need for all sorts of emergencies, not just pandemics. Number 4, speaking of disasters, climate change. A federal jobs program provides the opportunity for the United States to begin transitioning to green energy. And it could be a core feature of the Green New Deal or really any legislation that's seriously attempting to address climate change. Workers could be doing things like building high-speed rail all across the country, transitioning the USPS to green electric vehicles, which would also signal the market and encourage them to produce more of their own electric vehicles. Win-win. While number 4 is about addressing climate change, number 5 is about reacting to it. Even if we enacted the Green New Deal right now, we've already done so much damage and the storms are already so crazy that we can anticipate them at least staying this bad. It seems like we have once-a-century storms like every couple years now. And so I think it's time we stop pretending we're gonna win the war against climate change and actually start preparing for how bad it's really gonna be. Now that doesn't mean scrapping everything we're doing to create a green economy, but that means being realistic about what's probably heading our way. And every part of the country has different needs in terms of climate change preparedness. In some areas, like where I live, we could probably use a federal jobs program that put people to work making sandbags so we can get ready for the inevitable floods that happen every couple years here. In other places in the country, they may need help rebuilding coastlines or strengthening them or building dams. It also means ecological restoration. That means planting trees in forests, restocking animals into their natural habitats, restocking fish, measuring rainfall, checking for acidity levels, having more beekeepers to measure how healthy the bees are, checking on populations of wolves and bears and other scary things. In fact, ecological restoration is already a $25 billion industry with 220,000 jobs. But we obviously need more of it because climate change isn't gonna suddenly be solved. Number 6, the mental health consequences of unemployment. There's a ton of research connecting mental health issues with unemployment. And in 2020, I think we can all agree depression is not good and it's a serious problem. People who have been out of work for 6 months or more are 3 times more likely to be suffering from depression. This graph from Gallup really spells things out. As you spend more time unemployed, your chance of being depressed increases. Furthermore, an article on Scientific America says that depression costs the United States over $200 billion a year. Number 7, trained artists can revitalize the arts with shows and education all across the country. FDR's federal arts program put tons of artists to work too back during the Great Depression. Of course, things are different now. Back then, they were put to work doing things that machines pretty much do now. But there are other uses for artists, lots of them. The main one, education. Free shows in parks not only broaden participation in civics, they also get people out of the house and spending money at local businesses. And since everybody would be employed, that means they'd have money to spend. And not only that, people would be learning things. Even if it was like a Shakespeare play or something like that, they'd be being introduced to culture and arts that they may have never otherwise come across. Plus, it would be cool if we just had more art in our communities. I know where I live, they started putting up murals everywhere and everybody loves it. More art is good. Number 8, optional national child care. Once everybody has a job, there's going to be a whole lot of kids who need watching. A federal jobs guarantee would have to include national federal child care. Now, while parents wouldn't have to do that, of course, they have the option to, and that could provide a lot of really important structure to kids who bounce around a lot between sitters or don't exactly have the best people to watch them throughout the day. Just some basic education, some ABCs, things like that can go a long way to preparing kids for school. And when kids are better prepared for school, they have a higher likelihood of succeeding and not dropping out, which leads to a reduced crime rate, which leads to more participation in civics and the economy, which is good for everyone. Number 9, we would be closer to universal healthcare coverage. Even if our current disaster dystopian healthcare system remains in place and nothing about it changes or gets better, a federal jobs program would get us a whole lot closer to universal coverage. And while just universal coverage itself isn't the final end-all be-all in healthcare, it is definitely better than having tens of millions of people with no insurance or not enough insurance to actually utilize it. So yeah, it wouldn't be Medicare for all, but a whole lot of people would suddenly be able to go to the doctor. And that's a good thing not just for them and their families, but for the entire healthcare system. Access to healthcare isn't enough. We know that. They have to be able to afford it and have the type of coverage that's worth using, because that's what saves the most lives and encourages the most people to go to the doctor when they need it, before it's an emergency. Number 10, the United States would become a powerhouse of skilled labor. What could we do with a well-trained, well-paid workforce that's ready to go, that isn't tied down to specific shareholders or a CEO's vision? A federal jobs guarantee would mean an American workforce that could pivot as needed to attack the acute needs of the United States economy while preparing for the long-term needs. And all that without the pressure of a CEO or board of directors that is demanding profit. Instead of pleasing investors, you just got to make the people happy so that they keep voting for you. If there's an asteroid about to hit Earth, do you trust our super corporations to protect you? No. They're going to be investing in their bunkers. The same thing is going on with the coronavirus right now. We obviously can't count on companies to protect us because they have profit motives. A federal jobs guarantee means a workforce that can always put the American people first. So those are 10 reasons a federal jobs guarantee makes so much sense right now. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and do not forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel so I can keep making videos like this. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time on Run It Back.